I had this situation once. I got on stage and my fly open. And so now I'm paranoid. Every time I get on stage, I do a quick check. So I created a company called Mind Valley, and I created it because 17 years ago, I was working in Silicon Valley. I was burnt out. I was devastated. I had first lost the company and the 30 grand I borrowed from my dad because the economy had crashed after September 11. And then when I finally did get a job, the job situation was so miserable because so many people had been laid off after the dot-com crash that I was working long, crazy hours for absolute baloney wages. Much like what's happening in the world right now. It was during this time that I started going deep into meditation, into mind, and what I found is that it had a massive, massive impact on how I showed up at work. I gained almost superhuman abilities for performance, for flow states. As a result, at 26, I ended up being promoted 3 times in 4 months, becoming vice president of sales of that company. And I continued down this path for a while. Eventually, after ups and downs, I ended up starting Mind Valley, which today is the world's biggest platform for complete human transformation. It's been a long journey, but what I'm really excited about, what we do at Mind Valley, is working with our transformation engineers, like Ronan Diego here. Ronan, stand up. This man is... Ronan is actually, right now, the biggest author on Mind Valley. Ben Greenfield is also up there, Amy Killen is up there, but this man is a genius, and you'll be hearing his name a lot in the coming years. But working with these transformational engineers, we built a system of shifting people to such a degree, looking at 291 different human transformation outcomes. So human transformation outcome might be hair regrowth. It might be enhancing meditation. It might be being able to activate tantric energy. It might also be increasing bone density. It's a very, very wide scope, but we look at 291 different aspects of optimizing a human being, like a dial on a machine. And then we find the best teachers, we find the best programs, and we deploy it on a platform that learns using AI and then identifies the best tools, the best beliefs to create the transformation. Now, here's the key thing, right? We often get hooked on tools. So we think, okay, if I use this particular device or this particular protocol, it's going to create a result. But have you guys heard of the placebo effect? Yes. We know today that the placebo effect is also showing that often what we think requires surgery is not necessary. Dr. J.B. Mosley, there was an article about this doctor in the New York Times in 2013. He had a theory that a lot of surgery that was happening was completely pointless. And so he did an experiment. He took 10 veterans in Virginia at the Veterans Administration, and these were men who were suffering from knee pain due to arthritis. And what he did was 2 of them went through the standard surgery for knee arthritis. 8 of them were put under anesthesia. He created cuts in their knee, sewed it back up, and when they came out of anesthesia, they believed they had the surgery. 7 days later, all 10 men had been permanently cured of arthritis. It is the belief system. So what makes this effective is that it's not just the tips and tools, but we work on the belief system. And so we look at what is called models of reality, which is what you believe about the world, and then we look at systems for living, which are the tips and tools. So in a conference like this, typically there's a lot of focus on tips and tools, but you're starting to see belief systems start gaining popularity here. And now when you combine both of these together, this is how you get results. So if you go to stories.mindvalley.com, we now have 16,000 case studies. We're not allowed to compensate people for case studies, but people write to us and submit case studies of how their lives transform radically when they stack on a lot of these principles and methodologies that help you, as I said, upgrade 291 different human transformation outcomes. So that's basically what we do. And we're looking at getting this system. We now have 110 members. Eventually, we want to be able to use the Mind Valley platform to change the health of nations. And this is what excites me. But here's why it excites me. This is a picture that friends of mine sent me on Monday last week. And we are here at a retreat organized by Dave Asprey. I'm sure you guys have heard of Dave Asprey, right? good friend, amazing guy. So Dave Asprey had organized this retreat called 40 Years of Zen to invite his friends to come and go through a particular modality to train the brain to create the brainwave states of Zen Buddhist monks using biofeedback. Now I want you to look at me in that picture. This is what I looked like 7 years ago. And you can see I've gone through a radical transformation, right? This is the effect of applying everything that we are learning here on myself. But it is also the effect of changing my belief system to take on new beliefs about aging, new beliefs about hair loss, like I literally reversed hair loss. I changed the quality of my skin. I even corrected eyesight. I was diagnosed with 20/40 vision. The doctor told me I needed glasses. In 1 week, I took it down to 20/20. Belief system hacking is really the key. This does not get enough focus. We're going to be talking about this. Now, what you don't know in this picture is why I look, compared to today, I didn't look bad, but I look sickly compared to today, right? 6 months before I went on that retreat with Dave Asprey, I had 2 massive tragedies in my life, and maybe some of you can relate. 6 months before, I had what I call the Christmas disaster. It was December 2014, and I realized I didn't have enough money to pay my team their salaries for December. Now, this is Christmas. And so I had to get the leadership in my company to not get paid that month so we could pay everyone else for Christmas. And it was painful. It hurt my self-esteem. I lost my confidence as an entrepreneur. I started questioning my abilities. I felt sad and depressed for months because I love my team. And that type of thing really, really, really hits you. And so I told my COO, look, I'll sell my car just so I can pay the salaries. And eventually my leadership team told me, don't worry, we'll take a cut for December, let everyone else get paid. Fortunately, January was the personal growth season. We managed to get some money and we could fix that. But it wasn't the only thing. In February, just a few months after that, I found out that my right-hand man in my company had been stealing from me. And before he was caught, my COO had snuck away $100,000 from the company. And now I was in a court case. So this affected my ability to trust people. And it was in that situation that I got invited by Dave Asprey to attend 40 Years of Zen. Now, that 7 years ago sparked a massive transformation, and it sparked ideas that are in my new book. This is the book coming out in August. This is the first time I'm sharing the cover, so you guys are the first people to see it. So yes, please take an Instagram picture of it and tweet it. And I want you to add the words, everybody buy this now. Except we don't really have a page. So the book will go on sale in August. But what I'm going to share here are ideas from this book. Now, here's the power of the 6 phase. I share with you my before-after because I want you to know that I'm still learning, right? Even at the midpoint of doing Mind Valley, I was great at helping performance at work, but my health was shit. I had no idea about nutrition or healthy eating or even exercise. I'd learned all of that thanks to mentors like Ronan and Ben Greenfield only in the last 7 years. But in the last 7 years, as I stacked all of these procedures together, amazing things happen. I want to share with you some incredible stories of what happened when people do this protocol called the 6 phase. Now, the 6 phase is a mental protocol that you do in the morning, and it influences your belief system. It influences that part of you that is what I call transcendent. That means beyond the physical body. So yes, you want to do all your healthy eating, all your biohacking regimens, but if you can work with your transcendent self, the self beyond the physical, this is where beliefs come in. This is where you are able to activate whatever causes the placebo effect, like pushing a button. This is where you're able to shift your power and change your life in really unique ways. Now, these are some case studies of what happened. This appeared in Billboard magazine. So I took the 6 phase, I put it up on YouTube for free. Soon enough, Miguel, the R&B star, discovered it. And he wrote about in Billboard magazine how his entire team does the 6 phase before their concerts. Miguel, of course, is the one who came up with the song Remember to Forget. He wrote the music for the Pixar movie Coco. Camilla Hansen, Miss Sweden, she was actually here at the conference. She used it to heal her skin. You can use this as well to directly influence your body. Saying that one can heal your skin with imagery, with visualization sounds outlandish 10 years ago, but today there's a whole field of this called psychodermatology. Tony Gonzalez, who is one of the top 100 footballers of all time, I've trained him on the sixth phase. He's talked about it in press articles. This lady, Rolene Strauss, won Miss Universe 2015. Again, credits ideas, including the sixth phase, from Mind Valley. Now, this is the craziest story. One of my students, at the age of 16, she stumbled upon Mind Valley, she stumbled upon my book, and she started practicing some of the concepts I'm going to teach you in phase 5, which is creative visualization. Specifically, she started visualizing herself beating Serena Williams. 3 years later, at 19, she beat Serena Williams and won the US Open. And when they asked her how, she held up my book, and there's an interview of her on my Instagram talking about how she did it. This is phase 5. So she's a graduate of I used to do a 7-hour seminar on the sixth phase. She's a graduate of that seminar. So I've also used this to write best-selling books, but there's one really incredible gentleman here, Mark. Mark, stand up. So Mark approached me 2 days ago, and he told me about how the sixth phase helped him go from zero to starting a $100 million business, Bella and Duke, the dog food company. So listen to Mark's story.
Hi, so I'm Mark Scott. I'm CEO of Bella and Duke, Chief Emotions Officer, and in Mind Valley 4 years ago, and working with my own meditation, my own wellness, and a lot of the things that Vishen's implemented through Mind Valley, especially the 6 phases of meditation. I found it amazing, and within 4.5 years we've built a business close to 100 million in the UK.
100 million in revenue.
In value.
Yeah, dog food supply. How do you know the sixth phase contributed to you in 4 years building a $100 million business?
Clarity. So, how I imagined I wanted to be in the future. You talk about being a human plus. All these things were about clarity, and I found that my perfect day, what did I want to look like? So I've created probably the most pet wellness, friendly wellness office in the UK.
Amazing.
You can have up to 50 dogs. People love it. I've got exercise bikes, meditation rooms, and all this. So it's all these sort of things that I've introduced off the back of all my time with Mind Valley.
And you do the sixth phase every day still?
Yeah. Comes and goes, so I mix it up because I do other things as well.
Yeah.
I think as a CEO of a business this size, you have to learn new skills, and you have to let go is one of the toughest things you have to do as you get that sort of size, but that's the sort of thing. But definitely I continue to do it. But it was a great base for me to get going.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to break down what Mark said, right? So he said clarity. When you practice the sixth phase, in fact, when you practice any form of meditation, you gain intuitive insight. There's so much evidence for this. Steve Jobs said, listen to your heart and intuition. They somehow already know who you are to become. You probably also heard of Edison and his famous afternoon naps. There was a study on this, right? And they found, so Edison, he would hold a metal ball in his hand, dip off into nap time. The ball would fall because his hand would plunge. It would hit a metal plate, waking him up. He was going into the nap state, jolting out. He was tapping into what is called the theta level of mind to source intuitive ideas. Clarity. That's what happens when you learn to tap into these levels of mind. Call it clarity, call it intuition, it's the same deal. In 2015, Dave Asprey interviewed me for his podcast, 2016 when my book came out, and I spoke about intuition as the next big thing. And I got skewered by biohackers. People literally went to my Amazon page and gave my book a 1-star rating without even reading it, because I dare spoke about the human mind in a world that was meant to be all about science. Today I was just looking at Instagram. Ben Greenfield last night was the biohacker, right? One of the most respected guys, was leading a intention ceremony with breathwork, while the DJ was playing chakra aligning music. Today we can talk about that, and none of you guys are going to go and skewer me just because you aren't receptive to intuition. Call it clarity, call it intuition. You can access this. There was a study by the Newark College of Engineering, so let's talk about science. Professor John Mihalaski, he tested people on intuition, and he found that CEOs who can guess cards, it's called Xena cards, who have a better probability of guessing the correct card, which is a test for intuition, coincidentally, also happen to have higher profitability of their companies. Intuition is real. Just because we cannot see something or explain it doesn't mean we dismiss it. There's a whole new field right now called quantum biology, which might shed some light on why intuition works, but that is what Mark meant by clarity. Now, he also mentioned seeing the future, seeing how his business was going to unfold. You're going to learn that in phase 4, 5, and 6. Okay, there was similar approach to what Bianca Andreescu used to win the US Open. And then Mark spoke about how he went to his office and he just created this incredible work environment. That is phase 1, compassion. You learn that you are not just you, that we, just like your hand is made up of trillions of cells, we are part of a larger whole of collective humanity. And that when you can learn to engage and connect with this larger whole through the people around you, the people in this room, or your employees, or your family, or your friends, you operate better. And so does everyone else. That's phase 1, compassion and connection. Okay, now, what's going on when we practice meditation or the 6th phase? Well, we're tapping into what is called altered states of consciousness. Stephen Kotler says, we live in a monophasic society, but Eastern and indigenous cultures were polyphasic. They did not just function at the beta brainwave frequency. They dipped into other states of mind and used these states for different levels of awareness. I spent a week staying with the Achuar tribe in the Amazon rainforest. This is a tribe that communicates over long distance through dreams. They speak to each other through their dreams. We cannot understand why, but it is highly effective, and this has been studied by scientists. If you look at ancient cultures in India, in China, all of these traditions had altered state practices. But what happened is that in the Western world, after the scientific revolution, which was an amazing thing, we decided that if you can't explain it, it ain't real. And then, because of the backlash between science and religion, anything that seems pseudo-religious gets dismissed. But this actually, according to an anthropologist called Bourguignon, creates a loss of perceptual diversity. So I want you to remember that word. Perceptual diversity means to create greater diversity in how you perceive the world, not just your 5 senses. Have you ever sat next to someone and just felt this feeling, either of love or connection, or of disgust or wanting to move away? Have you ever, as a mother, woman experiences this so often, felt a sense of either that your child needed you? This is perceptual diversity. We can perceive beyond the 5 senses. Just because we can't explain it doesn't mean we should shut it down. Nassim Haramein, the physicist, said, spirituality is nothing more than science we have yet to find a mathematical equation for. So, let's talk about brainwave states, right? When you practice any form of meditation, you're going into brainwave states. The pioneer in this is Jose Silva, and this work actually comes from the Silva method, which is now part of Mind Valley. Jose passed away in '99, but he was one of the first researchers who taught people how to access brainwave states. Today, I'm the new face of the Silva method, and the course is available in Mind Valley. But beta, waking frequency, you can measure this with an EEG. That's where we are today. Alpha. Alpha is what happens when you meditate. Alpha correlates with heightened creativity, with healing. People who meditate frequently, there are so many incredible health benefits. You can get in Google News right now and type in health benefits of meditation, and there's an exponential increase in an amount of research here, but it's happening at the alpha level. Theta level is really interesting. It's gaining popularity in the biohacking community thanks to Dave Asprey. Through his facility, 40 Years of Zen, he teaches people how to get to the theta level and stay awake so you can source ideas. This is what Edison was doing with his ball drop technique. And then delta. This is the mysterious state. 1% of people, according to 40 Years of Zen, can be awake and conscious at delta. Delta is the frequency of sleep. Now, this is where it gets really interesting. Delta training seems to correlate with an increase in synchronicities, luck, and coincidences. People who can activate luck and who just generally tend to be lucky, so a higher correlation of delta waves in their brain. So delta is a whole different level. You learn about it in the Silva method, but what we're going to focus on is going to alpha and theta, okay? This is what your brain sounds like at alpha. Okay? It still sounds pretty fast. At theta, your brain is this. This is a theta frequency. So actually, in some of my training, we play that frequency in the background. It creates an anchor point in the brain to help your brain relax, and then we teach you tools that you use at alpha or theta. Now, the delta frequency is the really mysterious one. When I started doing delta training, weird coincidences would happen in my life. So the first time I did 40 Years of Zen, it was at the Biocybernaut Institute in partnership with Dr. Jim Hart and Dave Asprey in 2015. Second time I did it was in 2017. And the second time I did delta training, and that was really bizarre. You go into this state and you feel vibrations going through your body. I thought someone was shaking my chair, but really what I was experiencing is what is commonly called a Kundalini awakening. It's when all your chakras apparently are aligned and you are getting an energetic orgasm. Now, at the same time, I heard a voice speak to me. Now, you can dismiss it. It could be my subconscious. It could be a hallucination. But a voice spoke to me and told me about what I need to do in the world, what my mission in life is, and gave me tools to apply it. And I dismissed it. I assumed it was just a wonderful hallucination. 1 month later, I'm sitting at my computer, and I have an intuitive impulse. Now, I'd written a book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. It hit the New York Times. Then it dropped off, and it was just, an average book. And I had this intuitive impulse. Check Amazon. Now, as an author, after you write a book, you do not want to go and check on Amazon and see what people are saying about your book, because they are assholes in the world. But I decided to go and check Amazon, and this is what I saw. The day before, my book had become the #1 book on Amazon. Now, I'm not talking about the #1 book in the spiritual category. I'm talking about the #1 book. I had become the most popular author in self-help, and I'd become one of the most popular authors in the world. Look, even overtaking J.K. Rowling and J.R.R. Tolkien and their collective works. And my book hit #1 and stayed there for around 5 days. To this day, I don't know how. It just picked up on Amazon Kindle. So there is evidence that when we go to these states, even without deliberate intention, mysterious things happen that help us do good work. If you heard Barry Morgan speak yesterday, he said, look, when we are aligned with the universe and with doing good in the world, there is a force, there's an energy that carries us forward. This is one of the things that happens when you go into a transcendent practice. So how do you access these altered states? Well, there are 4 ways: neurotraining, breathwork, pharmacology, meditation. Neurotraining, this is what Dave's new facility looks like in Seattle. So it's fancy. You basically meditate in an egg. Really powerful stuff. It's expensive though, it's 15 grand. Then there's Breathwork. Wim Hof, good friend, amazing Breathwork guy. Mind Valley just signed Niraj Naik of Soma Breathwork. I think Wim Hof and Niraj Naik are the 2 leading experts in the world. Pharmacology. I was blown away by Dr. Aloka's speech yesterday. I apply psilocybin, I do psilocybin microdosing. I do ayahuasca like once every 5 years. If you do it too often, it's escapism. It's kind of pointless and dangerous. But this is actually me and a business partner. I use microdoses of psilocybin, around 0.3 to 0.4 grams, to when I invest in a company, to come together to create the business plan and to create trust between all the different stakeholders. Powerful stuff. But let's go on to meditation. So in the book Altered Traits by Daniel Goleman, he talks about the power of altered states, but he says of all of these 4, the most effective is meditation. And this is the graph that shocks people. This is the amount of studies in meditation. Now look, it's going through an exponential rise. This explains why in 2015, which was around over here, when I spoke about intuition on Dave Asprey's podcast, I got skewered by biohackers. But look at where we have come today. The number of studies on meditation has more than doubled. And now it's common to talk about all of this crazy shit that I couldn't dare say in public 5 years ago. And I am absolutely loving it. So let's talk about the 6-phase protocol, right? So I'm a geek, and that is my favorite computer game from 1991. It's called Rings of Zilfin. And in this game, you had a character called Reese, and you had to travel through this land and upgrade your accuracy with the bow and arrow, and upgrade your charisma, and upgrade your endurance and your strength, and battle these like evil spiders, and eventually go up to Lord Dragos and cut off his head and save the land, and then marry the princess. Now, the game took a lot of time, like maybe 30 hours, and that was the graphics. And I got really bored, so I decided to teach myself at the age of 13 or 14 how to hack the game. So I went straight into the game and I just gave Reese unlimited endurance and unlimited strength, marched straight up to Lord Dragos, punched him in the face, beheaded him, married the princess, and then declared victory by having a chocolate milkshake. So life is much like that. And if you look at human life, based on all the research I've done on meditation, these are 6 states that we need to be at, that we need to upgrade every day to live our best life. Our feeling of compassion, our feeling of gratitude or bliss, our feeling of peace with ourselves and the world, our vision for our future, our feeling of control over the upcoming day, and finally our feeling that we are supported. We'll go deeper into this, but as we go through our day, this gets out of whack. The 6-phase meditation is a protocol. It's a programming strip, literally, that you run in your brain in 15 minutes in the morning to upgrade all of these 6 states. And this is basically the 6 states. The first is the feeling of being loved and loving others. We call this compassion. When you develop this, you are kinder, gentler, but the world is also kinder and gentler to you because you see people as being good. We'll talk about this in a moment. Second, gratitude and happiness. It is the feeling of bliss, the feeling of being happy, the feeling of appreciating your life. Third, peace. This means that you are forgiving and that you see the world as being safe and peaceful. You hold no grudges against anyone. You know, at 40 years of Zen, the majority of the time there, when you're meditating in that egg that I showed you, you are running in your brain a forgiveness protocol, forgiving everyone in your life. And this correlates with 2 things: left-right brain synchronicity, that means both your brain hemispheres are in sync, and secondly, higher alpha amplitude. So what they found is that forgiveness protocols are the fastest way to actually create the brainwave states of monks. How they found this is that at the Biocybernaut Institute, in the work of Jim Hart, when he was trying to figure out what would activate the brainwave states of monks, he would put people into these 12-point measurements, and he would tell them, just go wild, do anything you want, meditate, pray, do yoga. And there was this one woman who was scoring, because you can measure everything, she was scoring incredible improvements. And so the scientist went to her and said, what are you doing? And she goes, I don't know, I'm just forgiving that asshole. Turned out, she found her husband cheating on her. And she was just spending the time in that meditation chamber forgiving her asshole husband. And this was creating the biggest improvements in brainwave states. And so forgiveness became the key thing that you do to activate your brainwave into the brainwave states of monks. When I was at Biocybernaut, 5 days non-stop, 3 hours a day, forgiving everyone in your life and forgiving yourself. We'll talk about that. Forgiveness is phase 3, and this is what leads to peace. Then you go to phase 4, which is where you see your life 3 years ahead, a vision for your future. Phase 5, where you do a spiritual technique not really a spiritual technique, but an intention technique, where you set an intention for your day. It's called segment intending, but it comes from a spiritual philosopher called Esther Hicks. Anyone heard of Esther Hicks? Quite a bit of you. And then finally, feeling supported. And this is where you bring in your belief or your religious tradition into the 6th phase. You set a prayer or an intention. So, what you learn in the 6th phase is simply an effective protocol to bring all 6 of these and up-level yourself. And what I teach is the most effective science-based protocol for these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all rooted in science. There's evidence for it. 6, no scientific evidence yet. But thousands of years of religious tradition suggests that for billions upon billions of people, this works. And we cannot dismiss that. Prayer, that's really phase 6. Okay, so day 1, when you do 6 phase, typically you start by, in 6 days, day 1, you would master compassion. I'm going to teach you the ritual, and because we have limited time, any idea, someone, how much time I have? I don't see a time chart here. I have 10 minutes left? Okay, 10 minutes. The what? 15. Okay, I got 15 minutes. So we're going to go really fast. But what I'll do is I am going to give you guys a simple program. So when my book comes out, there's a free program with the book. I'm going to give you a QR code. You'll be able to download the program. We'll upgrade all of you. And you can go through the 6 days on your own and learn this on your own in 20 minutes a day. So it'll be about 2 hours and you'll be able to master the protocol, okay? 2 hours divided over 6 days. Would you guys like that? Completely free. Great. So day one is really about compassion. What I'm going to talk about here is why these 6 phases are important. I'll give you the QR code, download the program, go through it. Compassion is important because studies show that when we can activate our heart, not only are we more loving, but people in our presence feel better. Now, for selfish purposes, there's also an advantage here. When you activate compassion, if, let's say you're driving down the street and someone cuts you off, rather than have your rather than have your brain go, oh, what an asshole, you stop being judgmental. You might instead wonder, why is that man stressed out? Why is that man in a hurry? I hope he's okay. And so you actually have less of a stress response. You are more understanding. You actually become a better tipper. People who do the 6 phase, they start telling me, oh my God, I don't know what's wrong with me. I feel so generous all the time. I'm tipping 20, 30%. So when you do the compassion statement, basically what you do is you imagine you start with a protocol from the HeartMath Institute. In front of you, you see the face of someone you love. You feel a feeling of compassion for them in your heart. You give that light a color, and then you imagine that light spreading outwards to your immediate family, to your neighborhood, your city, your country, all of the continent you're in this case, the British Islands or Europe, and then the entire world. And you end with a picture of the world covered in the light of your love. It creates a more unified feeling towards all life. If all British politicians did this, there would not be that Brexit mess. So that's phase 1, okay? Now, phase 2 is mastering bliss. Mastering bliss is basically gratitude. The way we do gratitude over here is really simple. But first, I want to show you something really interesting. So these are experiments that we actually did in our office using plant seeds and gratitude. So we had 3 plants. One is the control plant. It got no attention. The other plant, we would just talk badly to it. You dumb-looking seed, you're upside down. Your leaves are gonna wilt. I bet you're not even green. I wanna eat you when I'm hungry. I'm gonna eat you, you little bugger. You're gonna be caterpillar food. I don't know, like however you insult a plant. Okay, now the first one is you're gonna grow so beautiful, your shoots are gonna be so long, you're gonna be the sexiest plant in the world. You're gonna be in the cover of like Plant Supermodel of the World magazine. And this is what happens. This plant got the compliments, this plant was ignored, this was the plant that... So one of the insults that we actually told the plant is, I bet you're gonna grow upside down. And look at the leaves. You can try this experiment. Now the funny thing is, if this works on a biological organism like plants, imagine what it's doing to your own body. We're not physically connected to these plants, but how often do you wake up in the morning with feelings of worriness or anxiety or dread? I want you to try an experiment. Raise your hand and put it in the person next to you. Just put it around the shoulder of the person next to you, like your best buds. Okay? Now what I want you to do is to lean in and smell them. Just take a whiff. What do you smell? Anyone, what do you smell? Shout it out. What? So someone said perfume. Maybe you smell cologne. Maybe you smell coffee. Or whatever weird biohacking food product you ate this morning. Okay, now here's the thing. If you did this exercise 100 years ago, all of you would stink. Because 100 years ago, it was only around 100 years ago that we actually learned to shower. Do you know Americans only started brushing their teeth in the 1930s when the US Army declared an emergency of rotten teeth? This is all 100 years ago. Yet, while we clean our bodies, we still wake up in the morning, go into the world with judgments, worries, anxiety, and stress in our brain. We do not clean our energy. So this phase of the 6th phase, the gratitude phase, is about stripping away all of that. That's what we're doing here, right? And so This is going to be, and this is why meditation is gaining popularity right now. Meditation can be hard, and this is why the 6 phase is a little bit different, because it's so specific. You don't have to clear your mind or focus on your breath. You run a script, and the script is very exact. Okay, now, science shows that gratitude is the one human characteristic with the highest correlation with overall well-being. So this phase takes 2 minutes. 2 minutes, and you're gaining all of those benefits. Now, how we do it is you talk about gratitude for yourself, gratitude for your work, and then gratitude for your personal life, which is your partner, your children, and so on. And it doesn't matter whether you're expressing gratitude for something big, like your boss just gave you a raise, or something small, like your child hugged you as he or she left for work. The result on your emotional being is the same. Then we come to phase 3, forgiveness. This one is complex. You start with baby forgiveness, forgiving maybe the Uber driver who canceled on you, right? But then you go all the way up to forgiving massive things. I was at 40 years of Zen with Dave because part of the reason was I needed to forgive that man who had stolen 100 grand from me so I could trust again. And incidentally, when I finished forgiving him, the machines that were strapped to me, they showed the highest rise in alpha brainwave amplitude, monk-like states. And I knew that I was done, that I'd stopped carrying this burden on my energy system. Forgiveness is a superpower. And that's really what happened over here in this picture. So this is me with Dave and a couple of other people. We're all here doing forgiveness protocols for 5 days straight. And that was how I forgave that incident. After that protocol, one of the participants sent us this in our WhatsApp group. We all got so close, we created a WhatsApp group, and he said, I think we all just learned to be unfuckwithable. And this is what forgiveness does. My next book will probably call The Human Guide to Becoming Unfuckwithable. So I'm going to go very quickly on the rules of forgiveness. This is going to be fast. Don't worry, you're going to get a course on this. But this is the exact protocol that is used. This is the exact protocol that is used in 40 years of Zen, okay? So you identify the person, you create the space, you read the charge, you feel the anger and pain, you think of what you learned, you think about how the other person might happen, you see it from their eyes, you forgive into love, and then you are done with the forgiveness protocol. It seems complex, but once you learn it, it happens really fast. This part takes about 3 minutes. Now at this point, we won't have time to go through the exercise. You come to phase 4. Now here's a very important distinction. My second book is called The Buddha and the Badass. And the reason it's called The Buddha and the Badass is because I suggest that simply being spiritual is not enough. Even Martin Luther King said, love without power is sentimental and anemic. Power without love is abusive. We need to bring both together. The Buddha and the Badass simply means that there's a part of our life where we need to be peaceful, but there's a part where we need to go out there and disrupt the world. Ken Wilber wrote that the great spiritual sages of the world were not simple-minded milquetoast. They were not content with just sitting under a Bodhi tree. They went out there and rattled the world with the force of their ego, from subduing entire continents like Muhammad to Jesus bringing a frickin' bullwhip to the temple like Indiana Jones. So, when you practice this, the first 3 phases are all about bliss. It's really simple, right? Compassion, and then gratitude, and then forgiveness. But the next 3 phases are about going out there and being a fucking badass. So this is where phase 4 comes in, future dreaming. You practice creative visualization. The protocol we use is from Jose Silva. This protocol has been studied. Dr. Orkal Simonton did this exact protocol, which is now covered by Mind Valley, on 159 patients who were given 12 months to survive. At the end, 4 years later, 63 were alive. Okay, and they were given 12 months of survival rate. 14 showed no signs of cancer, 12 had cancer regressing, 17 were stable. It's very dangerous to talk about anything and say that you can aid cancer, so I'm not making any conclusions here, but this graph shows just how much imagery therapy, which is free and anyone can learn, or creative visualization has on the human body. This is also what I use primarily to biohack. I take supplements, I use the hardware, but I see my body evolving in my mind. And I've been able to heal eyesight, shift skin, regrow hair, even transform my body. Skin healing. a huge, huge, huge application over here. I've used this to heal chronic acne, which I had for 5 years. Okay, now you come to phase 5. Phase 5 is the perfect day. This technique comes from the Abraham Hicks series of books. And Esther Hicks, she's a channeled author, so she believes that she got the wisdom from source energy, and what she basically says is, set an intention for how you want your day to unfold. As you're meditating, set an intention how you want your morning to be, how you want to feel as you're commuting to work, what you want to have for lunch, and so on. I got 10 minutes more? Amazing. Okay, thank you, Harry. So let me teach you this technique right now, since Harry Adelson, who I think just took over the conference. Oh, Tim, you got Tim's permission. Okay, great. That's awesome. Okay, so segment intending is one of the most powerful spiritual practices. Most people don't do it. You think of your day as a series of segments. So basically, you wake up and you might say something along the lines of, today, wouldn't it be wonderful? Now, if you're naturally a bit pessimistic, Esther suggests you use the phrase, wouldn't it be wonderful? Wouldn't it be wonderful if today I woke up feeling amazing? Wouldn't it be wonderful if my commute to work was pleasant? Wouldn't it be wonderful if my favorite song played on the radio? Wouldn't it be wonderful if during daily huddle at work today, my boss showed me some appreciation? Wouldn't it be wonderful if I had the most inspiring lunch with my colleagues? Now, why is this important? Well, 2 reasons. One is, Esther suggests that our dominant thoughts influence reality. Esther's work, of course, sparked the movie The Secret. She wrote the book, The Law of Attraction. Many people don't know this because there was a copyright dispute, and the second version of The Secret, they edited all of Esther Hicks out, right? Unfortunate. But she was the woman who sparked that movie, that film, that sold 500 million DVDs, biggest selling DVD of all time. There must be some truth in there if it resonated with so many people. I'm sure all of you have noticed that your thoughts often influence how your day shows up. So that's one. That's the law of attraction theory. But there's a second theory, which is the reticular activating system. And if you are pure science, this is what that means. When you tell yourself, wouldn't it be wonderful if I had the most amazing lunch? The ambiance was great, the food was delicious, company was inspiring. And if you go to the restaurant and the waiter messes up your order, or the food is slightly less than delicious, or you get your food but the cutlery is missing, your brain is less likely to focus on that because you have told your brain what to focus on. So your memory and your focus of the incident shifts. Your brain's reticular activating system is the goal-chasing mechanism of your brain. You've literally commanded your brain to focus on the positive. And thus, when you walk away from that lunch, even if there's no mystical law of attraction, your memory of it is different. You're less likely to be bugged by a rude waiter or missing cutlery, more likely to remember and focus on what you commanded your brain to do. So doing this every single day is a powerful way of being in the right emotional state throughout your day. It's called segment intending, and this is phase 5. So you see yourself waking up, you see great meetings at work, inspiring lunch, and then you see what happens when you come back from work, maybe the time you spend with your kids and so on. And finally, we wrap up the 6th phase with the blessing. And the blessing is where you bring in your religious tradition. This is where you might pray in any type of religious prayers you have. In my case, I'm not necessarily traditionally religious, but I believe in a God. And so I do the blessing by imagining God giving me a fist bump. So my mental thought model is, okay, is dear God, I call him Bob, because we're close, we're tight. Whatever you call God, it doesn't really matter, right? So my mental script is, I've shown you my desire to bring compassion to the world. I've expressed appreciation for all the beautiful, amazing things that you've brought into my life. I've forgiven, because this is one of the central messages of all religious texts, to hold no grudges. I've shown you a vision of where I want my life to be 3 years ahead. I've set an intention for how I would like my day to unfold today to help me with my 3-year vision. Now I ask for your support. That's basically it. Fist bump, and you're done. So the 6th phase meditation has had remarkable, absolutely remarkable impact on human beings. And I encourage you to try it. What I'm going to do is take a picture of that QR code, and there'll be a simple form. It's nothing complex. You can do it right now. Just your first name and your email address. You'll be done in 10 seconds, really. And then I'll have my team send all of you an email, and we'll we will add the 6-phase meditation program to your Mind Valley account. So you download the Mind Valley app, just create an account using Google or Apple, and then in your account, if you click programs and you type in phase, because we have so many programs, the 6-phase meditation program will be unlocked for you. And you'll be able to listen to my voice, guide you through this. And we actually have the most advanced meditation player. There's a DJ mixing deck. So you can listen to my voice and you can change the background sound. You'll be able to decide that you want to listen to me through the sound of rain or a running stream or binaural beats. You can modify that. But when you set this up, you'll be able to go through the entire program over 6 days. The first day, I'm going to teach you the compassion protocol. Second day, gratitude. The third day, I'm going to teach you the forgiveness protocol. And then as you get to day 3, you stack them all together. So you go compassion, gratitude, forgiveness. And you know what? It only takes 7 minutes. When you get to day 4, we're going to teach you creative visualization. Day 5, we're going to teach you segment intending. And day 6, we're going to teach you how to bring it all together in a blessing. And then you have your daily ritual, which you can now put into your day. So in spirituality, there are 2 types of tools, right? Think about your home. How many of you here have a power drill? Do you use your power drill every day? No, right? You use your power drill when you need to put a hole in a wall to hang up a picture, or sometimes just to threaten your kids, right? You use a power drill occasionally. How many of you have a coffee machine? Do you use your coffee machine every day? Most likely you do, right? So there are tools that you use every day, and then there are advanced tools that you use when you have a problem to fix. The 6th phase is like the coffee machine. You use it every day for sustenance, for maintenance, to put you in the right state. Magic happens. And then there are also certain more powerful tools for applied healing. Like if you injure yourself, how can you accelerate healing? How can you accelerate creativity to download ideas for your new book? How can you give yourself a jolt of confidence before you get on stage? These are power tools, and these are also available in Mind Valley as well. But the 6th phase is more like the coffee machine. It is something you do every day. How many of you have heard of the Jongleurs Comedy Club in the UK? Was one of the biggest comedy clubs in the world. So the founder of Jongleurs, he sold it now, but he did an experiment with the 6th phase for 100 days. His name is John Davey. And he said he did it for 100 days, and after 100 days, he was just feeling great. And he decided to stop because he was noticing that every additional day didn't really shift much. Within weeks of him stopping, his friends went up to him and said, John, are you okay? Did you get off some medication? And he said, why? And they go, well, you're all nervous again, and you're scratching your face a lot. And he realized something. The more you do 6th phase, it's literally putting you in a different state. But then you get used to that state, and you'll want to stop. You'll think, I'm done, I'm good. But in actuality, just because you gain familiarity with the state doesn't mean that you are going to be there. Life can be tough, and those 6 states can fall a bit. When you do the 6th phase meditation, you elevate yourself again and again and again. 15 minutes a day. And many people do it in like 10 minutes a day. Really effective. And it brings together all the best meditation practices that I've discovered, studied, and validated over 17 years of Mind Valley. So thank you guys. And you can go to the Mind Valley booth. Ronan's over there. And you can learn more about Mind Valley membership. We also train people to be health coaches. Ronan is one of our trainers, as am I. We train people to actually teach the 6th phase. So you can go and talk to Ronan about that as well. We have a class coming up in July. Thank you, and thank you, everyone.